Hello, hello. How's everyone? Long time no see. Just kidding. Uh, so, how's everyone doing? I hope you had a nice break. You got to have lunch. If you didn't, well, that's going to be a bit of a problem because we are nearing the end of our sessions, okay? Which basically means that very soon we'll be able to generate PDF, store data in table, which is GHW React table, and yeah, I think these are the two main focus, uh, which I'm pretty sure would take the full 2 hours that we have left. Uh, but as promised, I'm going to push this to GitHub. Hey yo, 404, how's it going? Yeah, I'm going to push this to GitHub and we'll make some issues. Would love to see your PRs coming in. Hello. Hello. Okay. So yeah, with that on mind, let's give a couple of more seconds. Oops. I don't know what that's going. Okay. Don't ditch the effort, but yeah, all the best for that, definitely. Uh, okay, let's wait for another minute and then we'll start. But before we went on our hour-long break, this is where we were. Okay, you remember? We were basically on. Sorry, I was just checking the chat, you know. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, this is where we were. We had added. We had added a AG grade React table. We had made it sortable, and next one is going to be, the addition of our custom data into these tables. We'll also mess around with the width a bit because I think it's too small right now. So we'll make those changes. And finally, we'll be adding, hey Skiddy, how's it going? Uh, Great PRs, but not sure if they would be accepted before 31st. I hope they are, 404. Okay, so yeah, we'll also mess around with the width a bit, and now then we'll start adding our custom data. Okay, now I'm going to go out of the screen, and this is what your focus should be. Okie doke. So let's get cracking. Let's start coding a bit again. Before we went on break, I think we had kind of completed everything that was needed to ensure that this thing is properly styled and everything sortable. Okay, the next bits. Okay, let's start with the next bits of this project. Also, before that happens, the registration link. So let me quickly share that in chat. I would be very thankful if you could just quickly register. The link would say part 4, but it is actually part 3. Lots of things there, ignore that. But this is the part 3 of the session, part 3 and final part of the session. Okay. Yeah, I think that should be good enough. Let's get tracking. Okay, so where we will be working, we will work in the invoice items table. So step one would basically be to check what all changes are needed in the invoice items table. So if you all could please open that, and now let's start making changes. So if you have gone through the AG grid getting started guide, there is something called as a ref used. Now I'm not going to go in detail of what is a ref, but it is optional, okay, for accessing grids API. Kind of makes the word ref reminds you of reference. So that, and it is something that is a part of React. It keeps a reference of the current state. And it's not really required, but for our project, let's create it quickly. It's not going to be used anywhere, just a nice practice. Once you actually start messing with the current state and updating current state and next state and all, that's when you'll make more use of it. But right now, just to keep it there, uh, just to show it that okay, this is there, something like that exists, I'm going to leave it. The next part would be our state management. Okay, we need to add some data. So we already have this data, so I am going to actually create a row data and add a set row data, which will use, of course, the use state, and it would be an array of objects. Okay, why an array of objects? If you see this state, this is an array of multiple objects, right? And each object has a key and a value. The key is same across these three objects, which we know, but the way it, okay, let me just comment this out. The way it is working is when the AG grid, oh, I did not import use ref, so I should rs, so use ref. Yeah, the way it is working is it is keeping a track of the values, keeping a track of these column headers, and for every value it is checking which, what is the key, and if the key is, a key exists in the column definition, it adds in that column of the table. So you get the idea, like how it is being mapped, right? So that is why we have, like, if there are multiple things coming in, we are going to create an array of objects. Now in this case we had already defined the array of objects, but in R we are going to recreate it, and we are going to keep it empty for now. Okay, so I'm going to delete this particular row object. Perfect. So now we have created an empty row data, which basically means that our table is now empty, right? As you can see, the table is now empty. These things are column headers, which is this field thing. We are going to update that as well. We should update that as well. So, excuse me, let's do that. So I'm going to not use state for it, because we are not going to update. Sorry, yeah, we are not going to update the column definitions. We are not going to update the column headers anymore. We are going to create it once, and it is going to stay there, which basically, or like what I'm trying to say here is that instead of using use state, I'm just going to create it as a normal variable. So const column defs equals to, again, it is an array of objects. So we are kind of following the same structure. array of objects. And I am going to, and what all things does it have? It has multiple things, but we are going to start with the things that I know of. So there is something called as header name that exists. Okay. And our first one is going to be a serial number. So that's the first header. I'm also going to remove this column defs that we had copied over. And also let me see what all things do I need. So in AG Grid React, we are going to need the ref, which we have created. It is grid ref. We have the row data coming in, which is empty right now. Column defs, which we are creating right now. Default column def, so that we have created right now. Yeah, I think this should be fine. So now if I go there, as you can see, the header, it goes literally on top, okay, as the column header. Now let's create some more. Of course, you remember from the diagram. Yeah, here it is. Serial number, item name, item description, quantity, price, and total. So let's quickly create those fields. So I'm just going to copy this header, paste it like 4 or 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that should be fine. Just add comma. Should have done that before. Yep, that looks good enough. So the first header is serial number. The second one is going to be item name. Next, we will have item description. We'll also have quantity. We will have price. Yeah. We'll have total. So that looks good enough. Let's see. So there is serial number, item name, item description, quantity, price, total. Good. The only problem is, I think remember I had told you initially that the width of the table. Wait, sorry. I think there are lots of things on the chat. Let me quickly go over. Okay, yes, you're not late. That is good. How to get the Holopin badge of MLH? Receiving goodies, I am not sure. I think you could ask Mary when she ends the GHW session. Ask her in chat. She'll be the best person to answer it. Okay, I think, yep. Let me go back. So we have the headers, we have those things. The only problem is the width. Yeah, we were talking about the width of this whole thing. And I think, don't be sorry. All I meant, just ask Mary when she's ending the stream. She'll be the best person to answer it. Basically, when the GHW week ends, there would be a closing ceremony. Ask it in the closing ceremony. You would get better answers there for sure. Or ask it on the GHW chat that would have been created on Discord. Someone who is better equipped with that knowledge would be able to answer you. Sorry, going back, if I want to change the width. Now, I want the width of the table to be 90% of the viewport width. What this means is, if I wanted, if the viewport is, let's say, very simply your screen size. So I always want it to be 90% of the width of the viewport. Yeah. And that simply does it. You can make it like, let's say, 50% of viewport width. So if your viewport is like 1080 by 1080, let's say, square screen, I don't know, then 50% of that would be your table size always. And by default, it is kind of responsive. Height, I think it's fine, but if you want, you could increase it by 100 to, let's say, 500. Okay, I think, yeah, this is a good enough height and that's a good enough width. Perfect. So now let's add some. Also, before I forget, let me format this. Looks ugly. Yep. Extra spacing removed. Everything looks much cleaner and better. Okay, now there's a header serial number. Now I don't want a user to enter the serial number. I want it to be generated auto magically, if you know what I mean. So every time user adds a new row, it should be created automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something called as a value getter. Okay, now value getter, again, it's an attribute on AG Remember my kind of complaint that there are like X ways to do it. So if you search for value getter on the AG documentation, you would find what is a value getter, what is a value setter. So value getter, yeah, you can read this big description. What it basically says that, you could get the values and show it by doing some customization on it. Okay, so example here, they are saying that take the first name, add the last name to it, and change the value of a particular cell as first name plus last name. Okay, very simple. uh, you could also print the row node. So this is what we are going to do. So there is this hash where it prints the row number, and serial number is nothing but a row number. So we are going to use this row node object, uh, row node parameter, to find, like, add these values automatically. But we are not going to start from zero. No one makes their invoice number starting, like, no one adds an item to an invoice starting from zero. So we are going to just add +1 to it to start with. And this is basically row number, which is our serial number. So that's what we are going to do. And the way to do it is you do node dot row index and +1, not m1, +1. So if I do that, as you can see, the serial number, it starts from 1 automatically. So simple. Yet if you don't know about node and row index, yeah, here it is, the current row index. If the row is filtered out or in a collapsed group, this value will be null. It's type number or it is null, and we're using this row node. A row node represents one row of data. Okay, so now we know what is a row node, what is this whole node thing, and on that we are getting the row index, adding +1 because we don't want to start from 0. And in arrays, everything starts from 0. Okay, too much talking. We could also define the width of this. So right now, if you see it, it is actually equal width. But serial number, I don't want it to take so much space for one digit. So I'm going to define the width, and let's say it is 80. So if I do that, you will see that the serial number now takes less space and everything else is taking more space. That's fine. For now, I think this is good. What's next? We could also define a field name. Okay. So what is the difference between a header name and a field name? So a header name is going to the title of the header, the column headers, but a field name is a simplified version of calling it. Okay, so you could give this a field of, let's say, SR number, and whenever you want to update this particular the values in this particular column, or in this, yeah, in this particular column, you could call it by doing something like uh, example. Okay, for column defs, take the zeroth object and dot field will give you this whole field. Okay, so you could define field name. We are not going to use it in this one because this is auto generated, but for others we are going to use it. Let's say next one will add a field name of item name. Now we want this field to be editable. Okay, a user should be able to edit this field and add a value to the in that cell. So by doing editable true, you actually make it editable. We'll also add a width of, let's say, 150. I think that should be good. Now if I go here, just let me reload it. Item name, it is now editable. I can actually type anything I want, which is nice, right? Other fields are not editable right now. If I double click on anything, it is not editable, but at least item name is editable. Let's go to the next one, header name. Sorry, not header name, item description. So for item description, I am going to say that the field would be item description. You could also think of field as a variable name. Yeah, think of it as a variable name, a nice variable name, because in JavaScript, variable names cannot have spaces. So we create something called as a field, which is more of a proper variable name in JavaScript. You can, yeah, that is one way to also picture it. Now I'm going to keep editable true, width of, now since this is going to be a description, I want a bigger width. Also, if I have too much of text there, so let's say if I have a item name of ABC, item description of ABC, DEF, GHI, and then just some random things. So the width is fine. Okay, width is not a problem. But if I lose focus out of that item description, it gives me this dot dot dot. So it says that there is some text there, but you cannot see it. What would be nice, and what, like, normally if you have to do it in Excel, what would you do? You would switch on the wrap text, right? That is available in AG Grid as well. So we have to do wrap text true. And let's see. Interesting. This is not working. So what else do we need to change? We'll come to it in 1 second. Let me also add a field to quantity, editable true, and width to 150. Yeah. So last time I had done this, I remember that when I lost focus of that field, it was fine. The only problem was that it was not wrapping. Okay, it's still not happening. So it is not wrapping. So what we need to do is go to our default column definitions. You remember this default column definitions where we had done sortable true? In that, we have to add some more things. So one is resizable to true, and wrap text to true. The height of the cell should change. So auto height to true. And I think that should be it. Let me reload this. Uh, yeah. So after adding all those things, you finally have a more of a wrapped text. So ABC and this and quantity 78. Yeah, that should be it. So to make it more wrappable or more of more of like your normal table table options, you have to add those things into default column diffs. I'll also quickly share this in chat so that you don't have to write it up. Yep, there it is. So you could just add that quickly, and yeah, let's come back. And also we are using default column diff here, okay? Don't forget that in AG Grid. So moving on. Moving on to the next part, which is going to be the field price. So header price, field name would be, field would be price. Uh, Again, it's going to be editable. So editable true and width this. I'm going to just copy that because I'm very lazy. And for this one, header name again, sorry, for header name total. I keep saying it header name. For header name total, I am going, oh, this is wrong. It should not be editable. We want the total to be calculated as quantity multiplied by price. So if you want to ever do something which allows you to change the data, you could just do a value getter, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do value getter, and I'm going to tell it. Uh, so remember, I was talking about how we want this field name is nothing but a variable name, and we want to be able to access it. So the whole data exists on a variable, a default variable, which is called as data. And if I on that data, so data is, you can think of data as your column defs. Okay. So column defs has data, and that data is the data which goes in the row, okay, which is stored in the row. And if I want the data of one particular row of one particular column, I can access it by doing data dot the column name. So in this case, it would be quantity. So data dot quantity multiplied by data dot price. And if you see, even though it is written in a string format, it is actually going to be calculated, which we have already seen when it calculated this value and we got serial number 1. So let's go over to our AG grid. Currently the total says nan, which is not a number. But if I add an item name ABC, item description, let's say GHW MLH, quantity of 4 and price is, let's say 5, it multiplies it and gives me the value. Okay, how cool is that? So we are able to actually calculate the total by just doing this. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good enough. Now, what's next? I need some more functionalities on my table for sure. So one of the functionalities that I need is the ability to delete a particular row, and also the ability to add an empty row. So I need a button which allows me to add an empty row. I need a button on each row which allows me to delete everything that is in the row. So if there should be a delete button somewhere here, and when I click on it, it should delete this particular row. Okay. uh yep, I think these are two major functionalities that I need. The add button is going to be easy. The delete one is going to be a bit tricky. So even if you don't particularly get it, you will once you just build it twice or thrice. Meanwhile, I'll also quickly just make it a better looking thing. I'm also going to hide column defs for now, hide default column defs for now, and we are going to be messing around with a new variable. Let's call it add empty row. So I'm going to first add a comment, add empty row to the grid. Okay, so in the grid we want to add an empty row. Also, let me add some more comments here. Column headers and their definitions, default column functionalities applied to all columns in the grid, not grid grid. What is this? This is data individual, not individual, it's just date. Okay, I think it's like too many comments. Okay, so empty row. So add empty row to the grid. This is what we are now going to do. So let's add that. So const add empty row. So this is going to be a function. And now in this function, what we are going to do is we'll create a new row. So const new row. What is the value of this new row going to be? If you remember from our state, a row is nothing but an object, okay, in an array. So if there are 10 rows, it basically means there is an array of 10 objects. So a new row is nothing but an empty new object, right? And that's it. And whenever someone clicks on this, uh, we will create a button. But whenever someone clicks on that button to add a new empty row, we also want to update the row data, because now in the row data there is a new row created which is empty by default. So I'm going to take that row data. It's an array. That's what we have defined. So it's an array. And now I'm going to spread over the existing data, which is like row data. So spread over the existing data, which already exists there. Someone has added something, and add new row to it, which is this. Okay. And simply that does the job. Now let's go over to our code here. There's one div. Let's create a few more divs. So it's first div, let's create it here, which is a wrapping div around the whole thing. So let me also add some comments. This is ag grid table start, and this is where ag grid table end. Okay, now in the wrapping grid, what we want is, let's add some title, basically an h1 tag and a button. Is this similar to splice? What is similar to splice? Sorry, I did not get you. Okay, I'll continue for now. Sorry, but yeah, feel free to add it in the chat, like some more context, because kind of lost it. My bad. A pop basically means to remove the data. So this is more like pushing. Okay, so pushing new data in the set row data. Yeah, no worries. You're welcome. So, okay, so now I have created another div here. Let me add a comment. Invoice title, not title, it's title, and add row button. Okay, it starts here and it ends here. Okay, so the invoice items table title that goes in here, we need a button. So a button which will be called add row. Now let's quickly move over to Daisy UI and let's see what options do we have for a button. So if you go over to this, you could find multiple buttons here. We could go with this primary button. So all we have to do is add this particular class name, button btn and btn-primary. So let's come over and add it here quickly. I think that should be it. So if I go here, okay, invoice items table, this is our kind of header title, and there's an add row button. Clicking on it, nothing happens right now. But to make something happen, all we have to do is say on click. Okay, whenever someone clicks this button, on click, add empty row. Yep. And now let's come over. Let's see. On click, it's adding empty rows. That's it. Uh, that easy. Just need to style it a bit. Also, let me check. If I remove this, and we have it as a function, do you think it will still work? That's the question. Yes, it does. I don't know why I made it unnecessarily complicated, but yes, we could simply do like now click on add row and it adds a new row. Also, I will reload this item name ABC, add row. It's deleting the data. Why is that happening? Let's try go back to what we had previously. And now let's reload this. So ABC, oh, sorry, ABC. And now if I do add row, now it's not. Okay, so that wasn't the error. My bad. So if I do ABC, DEF, and add row, yep, it stays. Okay, ignore that checking. But okay, we are calling this function on click and it's adding the button. Just need to style it a bit so that it looks comparatively better. So I need to add a class name here. So what all we need? So step one, I think some margin bottom to the table would be nice. So some margin, I'm going to give it 6. Flex, we will also say justify between and items center. And that's the magic, okay? This text is actually in center. If I like hover over it, there's a margin added so that you can see an orange color. Uh, in the purple color, that is the div, and invoice items table is on left, center to that div, and add row button is on extreme right, and it's taking the full height and some width. And yep, that's good looking enough. All we need to do is just, I think the text size is too small, so I could make text size equals to be, let's say text dash 2 XL. Yep, big enough and legible. Okay, so that's one hurdle sorted. So now we know how to add the add row button, and we have kind of added it, some things. Add row, yep, add row, yes, everything's working fine. Total is like 78 multiplied by, let's say, 89. I'm not going to calculate, but I'm going to assume this is a correct value. Yep, this looks good. What else is needed? The delete button. Yeah, I remember. Meanwhile, let me just format it very quickly. So I'm going to head over to our nice little app. Okay, so there's the add row button, there's the AG grid table. There's also one interesting thing, which we can check later. Okay, again, ignore me. What else? What else? What else am I missing? The delete. I keep forgetting. So just below the total, inside the column defs. Okay, so we have serial number column, we have item name column, item description. I need another column here, which we can call delete. Okay, now remember I told you that delete is going to be a bit tricky because you want to render a button inside the table for every row that is created, which is not even the problem. The problem is that that button has a functionality to delete everything in that particular row, basically delete that row. So it's kind of tricky there. Step one, we give it a header name, delete, should be fine. Now there is a very interesting thing in AG Grid. It is called a cell renderer, DERER. Yep, cell renderer. So cell renderer, it renders something inside a cell. Could be a custom component, could be anything. So that is what I have used in the past to render something inside the cell. So that's what we are going to use right now. So cell renderer, okay, cell renderer. We are going to create a custom component, a custom function. We will call it delete, DELETE, delete row button renderer. Okay, we have not created this. We are going to create it. And once we create it, then we will use something called a cell renderer params, inside which we are going to again call a function which will handle the deletion. Sounds a mouthful. It is kind of tricky, but we'll be able to handle it. For the time being, at least for this session that is ongoing, this will not go on GitHub. Okay, on GitHub there would be better looking code, but at least for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this delete row button renderer in this file itself. And again, this is for the time being only. So const delete this, it will take some things. Now, there are two ways to define those attributes, okay, the parameters that it takes. We have seen one way where we destructure it and we define the individual names of the parameters it takes. The other way is by saying that this thing takes props. So props, or you can say it's shorthand for properties. So the whole parent-child conversation that we had from top to bottom. So properties are passed down, and it is by default on this variable, let's say. So we can say that it is on default this variable called as props. And what we are going to do is we are going to create a function inside it on cell delete click. And inside this, we will say if props dot on delete click. Now, props dot on delete click is a custom function that we are going to again create in this cell renderer params. Kind of tricky, but just please follow along. It's okay if you're not getting the whole picture right now. So if this value exists, like basically if someone has clicked on this, then what you have to do is props dot on delete click props dot node. So weird, like right, this looks so weird. You just don't understand what's it doing, but we will get to it, don't worry. We are also going to return a custom component. Remember the custom UI component? So we are going to say there will be a button, and that button would be called as, let's say, delete row. I want to give it a custom class. So let's go to Daisy UI. If I want to give it this error one, it is btn and btn-error. Come in here, paste that. Oops. And whenever someone clicks on this, what should happen? So on click, it should call this function that we have created. So this is a function that we have created on this page itself. You could actually take it out from here into a separate file. You could create a new file called as delete row button renderer, where you can paste this highlighted piece of code. Just don't forget to do export default blah blah blah. Okay, export defaults delete row button renderer at the end of it, and that will work fine. Now coming back to our this cell renderer params. So delete row button renderer that we have created, or you can also say we have imported. Now inside cell renderer params, remember this props dot on delete click. So this is the function that we are going to create here. So whenever this happens, remember the whole data part that I talked about? So data.quantity, data.price, and we also talked about this node.row index. So here in this case, we are going to, whenever someone clicks on this particular row button, it takes the node and it will call the handle delete row, and that will delete this row. Now, where is this handle delete row? Let's create that as well. So again, a custom function called, I keep on saying so many custom functions. Everything that we create is a custom function. So handle row deletion. So what is happening? We are going to say that, hey, this is a function which we will call handle row delete. So const handle row delete. it takes some parameter. In this case, the parameter would be passed as this node. Okay, the current node is nothing but the current row, remember? So pass in that current row, and what you have to do is const updated row data. So we are updating the row data, and what we are doing is the original row data, which was a state, this u state. So we will call that original row data and then do a dot filter on it, and we will say that for the row in the row data, for each row in the row data, return me the row, return me all the rows which are not equal to the params dot data. Yeah, that should work. So what we are saying is when someone clicks on a delete row button, just don't so it will go, and from the array of objects it will say, take this particular row that was where the delete button was clicked, take it out and return me everything else. Okay, take it out from the array and return me everything else. And now we are going to just again do set row data to be this updated row data. Okay, you will see one difference here. We are saying that we are pushing a new row, and we are also keeping the track of existing row data and adding a new row data when we are doing add new row. But when we are doing a delete, we are saying we are not keeping a track of existing row data. Why? Because updated row data is everything except for the row that I deleted. Okay, so I'll also add a quick comment here. Return everything except for the deleted row. Okay, I'm going to select all, go over to Prettier, delete this, take this nicely formatted one. Nothing's changed. But hopefully, if I now go over to this, there is a delete row button. So let me add some things. ABC, DEF, quantity 6, price 7, 42. That is correct. Good math. Let's say GHI, XYZ, quantity 9, price 8. That is correct as well. And let's say MLH, GHW, 9 and 5. Okay, this is correct as well. Nice. So we have these three things. Now keep an eye on the serial number. ABC is on serial number 1, GHI on serial number 2, MLH on serial number 3. If I click on this okay, no worries. If I click on this delete button, it updates the serial number. So ABC that got removed, and now we have GHI and MLH left. It basically returned me everything except for the row on which I clicked the delete button. Now, again, if I click delete here, it will update the serial number again, and we'll only have the MLH GHW left. There we have it. If I delete this as well, no rows to show. Very simple. Okay, so that is our delete function. The reason why in between I was like, I should also do one more thing. I should actually just make the size of this 200 to be slightly like 150 or something. And we can also define the width of this one. So width of delete row to be 250, let's say. Yep. Yeah, much better looking. Wait, something broke. It is going out of bounds. Ah, okay, I kind of know why. Because of these custom width settings, it is, the total is going beyond 90 viewport. And we also need to add some stuff to kind of squeeze this in. I would not want to waste time right now on that. Reason being, I really want to do the PDF generation part. Okay, but this is the first bug. Remember that it is kind of going way beyond the card, and okay, it's going way beyond the card, and we need to add something to make sure that it is well inside the card always. So remember that, and maybe raise a PR on that. What else do we need? uh yeah, I think we are kind of done. There is one interesting property. It's called as animate rows. So animate rows, it enables row animation. So every time you do something, like let's say delete something or change something, you see that quick animation that comes in. Okay, so that you could, like, there's very small animation, and that you could do by doing, by just adding this animate rows, and the value of it would be true. Okay, and what else? Hmm, yep, I think that should be fine. One very, very, very last thing that we are kind of missing here. You remember our invoice info header? So in invoice info header, we gave it two attributes, or two things. We were passing down two things. We're managing state of two things. One was like this invoice info data, and the other was this on invoice info change. Invoice info data was nothing but this invoice info header. That was like we are doing some state management stuff here. And on invoice info change was a function. And by having this invoice info header, we were able to pass it to this temp invoice details output, right? And we were able to render it. Now, can we do something similar for our uh, invoice items table? The answer, of course, is yes, we can. And the second answer is yes, we will. Okay. So let me quickly show that to you. Invoice items table. So what are we going to do? So for invoice items table, I'm also going to just reduce, close these things, and close this one as well. Okay, this is what we are left with in a way. Uh, if someone has a question here, you could not watch the videos. You could find the videos on, sorry, YouTube, and you will also find the videos on Twitch, but only for next 30 days. After that, it would be removed, but it will always be on YouTube, so you can get it there. Okay, sorry. So coming back, so yeah, we want that ability to be able to pass the value to another component. So how do we do that? Well, very simply, to have some data, we will create a attribute or a variable here. We can call it on row data change. Okay, so whenever the row data changes, this is what is going to happen. Whenever row data changes and some value changes, we also want the grid to be able to show that updated value, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that whenever the value of a cell changes, so individual things are nothing but cells. Okay, so this is one cell, this is second cell, third cell, fourth cell. So when the value inside these individual cells change, I want to update this row data. Okay, so how do we do that? Very simply, there is parameter which is called as on cell value changed, and what it does is it basically takes whatever you are giving it, and I'm going to call this this function on row data change, and I will give it okay. Let's actually first start with console logging. Let's console log whenever something changes. So cell value changed, and to access that, all you have to do is params dot data. Perfect. Remove this extra spacing here, and now if I go to display to our rendered component, I add ABC and I click on tab. As you can see, item name changed, item description something, and tab cell value changed. These are the two new values. So whenever the cell value changes, we are basically console logging it right now. Okay, that's all that we are doing. Okay, and next, now I will show you what on row data change does. But first, let's create that idea of what is supposed to do. So on row data change, what is it supposed to do? What should be happening whenever someone clicks on that on row data change? So when sorry, not clicks, someone changes something in on row data change. Whenever you change something in the on row data change, or whenever you change something in the invoice items table, it should be passed down to my temp invoice details output. So here we can create a new attribute. We can call it invoice items table data, and this will take a value. What is that value going to be? Let's create that value quickly. So I'm going to hide these things, and now let's create the value that goes there. So we had created this invoice info header, which we had passed to in this invoice info header data. So similarly, we will create const row item data, I think row item data, and set row item data. That is nothing but use state, and it will be an array. Inside the array, there would be multiple things coming in, multiple objects coming in. So by default, it's an array. And then we had created this handle change, right? So similarly, we'll create const handle row data change. So whenever this changes, what had we done for this? It was taking in two things. It was taking the name and it was taking the value, and then it was updating this set state. In this case, it would take the whole row, okay, all the data that is in the row, the whole data, and just do a set row item data to be this data. So we are not giving it just the updated data. We are giving it, if you change one thing, we are giving it or dumping everything inside it. So now coming to on invoice items, on the invoice items table, remember an attribute that we had added on row data change. So on row data change, what values are we going to pass it? We are going to say that pass everything that is inside the handle row data change. And what are we going to pass to invoice items table data? So to invoice items table data, we are going to pass the uState variable, which is row item data. I think this should work. Let me just prettify these things. Yep. Let me come over, reload this, delete everything. So if I do A, B, C, D, E, F, oh, I also forgot one more thing. Or invoice items table data. So we have to go over to temp invoice details output, which is here. Initially, it was taking in only one value. Now we'll give it two values. So this and this. Now also let me prettify this thing. Yep, this should be fine. Now, if you come down here in our temporary thing, you will see that there's invoice info header data and invoice items table data. This is the value. Okay, let me also reload it. So initially, this is whole thing is empty. This is empty array. Now let me add some data: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, 1, 2, 3, and this is 2023-01-01. Let's say. Here I'm going to add A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Quantity cannot be G, H, I. Validation, I'm not adding that for now. 2 into 7, 14. Add row, let's say. Now, you'll see that it console logs the cell value change, but it is not updating it here. Any particular reason why is that not happening? Would anyone like to take a guess of what we would need to do to make sure that it renders? Why is it, like, very simply, why is it not displaying the data there? What's missing? Anyone? No one? I mean, we actually followed everything that we did for the above one. What's the difference? What is causing this to not render the data? And this works fine. Like, you can see the data exists. Cell value changes. Yeah, everything is there. It's still not rendering the data. So if you had to debug this, how would you do it? So one thing that I have not done is this on row data change, I'm not actually using it in invoice items table. So let me use it. And this would take this row data. Okay. Now let's see if it does it. So now if I do add, I'll reload it. ABC. Okay, this changes. Item name 56, 78, 89, 87, something there. And now it renders one thing, that is just the item name. But if I click on add row and just try and add something else, like let's say JKL, PNR, 75 to, now it has everything from the previous one. And for the next one, it only has one item, just the item name. But once I click on add new row, add something like let's say MLH, ML, okay, then it renders the previous object. So actually, would someone like to take a guess why is that happening? Okay, and okay, someone said let's go back to the code and see it. So this is the code. Okay. Also, I think this is the perfect time to actually take a break. People who have followed along, people who have reached this stage, and if you haven't, I will share the Replit link. Go over that Replit link and just check and think of why is that happening. Why is it only rendering once we go to another cell, add some data to it, and then it starts showing the data of the previous one? Why is that happening? Also, if I delete something, does it delete it from here? Doesn't seem so. But if I add, let's say, BMM, then it actually deletes the row that we had deleted. So the rendering is happening after something else has happened. Why is that happening? Someone said debug using chat GPT, maybe. Give it a try. Let me know if you would find would find an answer to it. But for now, I am going to take a quick pause here, take a break here, and we can come back in like 5-ish minutes, 5-7 minutes, and we'll continue and we'll do the last part, which is the PDF generation part. Okay, so see you all in 7-ish minutes. Thank you. Hello, hello, and we are back. Let me just remove the sticker right from here and reduce the volume a bit. It's too loud. Yeah, sounds about right. Okay, so there is one comment which says that there I might butcher your username. Correct. I'm pretty sure you are going to correct me because I'm going to be wrong. But is it Keymanovic? Okay, says that the render is happening after button click as the logic is embedded in the button. Which button are you talking about? Are you talking about the invoice items table button or something else? Anyways, it does not actually hamper what we are going to do next. But yes, this is the second bug. So keep a count, okay? The table goes outside of our card. That's the first bug. The second bug is why is it rendering later? There is something. It has something to do with the render, for sure. The render is happening later and not when it was supposed to happen. Where is it happening and what should be changed? That would be your job to find. So how do we fix it? So you are saying that it is happening because of this add row button. So what would be the fix for it if it is happening here? So I'm going to leave this open-ended, and now we are going to the next and the final part of this whole session, which is PDF generation. Okay, now you remember day one I was talking about React PDF, day one being like yesterday. My bad, when I had initially started preparing for this session, I was using React PDF, but I found that it was causing some problems in my Chrome. Okay, so I had switched over, but I don't know why on my mind I still remembered it as React PDF, which is why I wrote React PDF here. But we are going to use an alternative of this, which is called as JS PDF. And the other thing that we are going to use is JSPDF auto table. Okay, I apologize for that oversight, but this is what we are going to use. JSPDF. It has Hacktoberfest tag on it. Okay, so maybe have a look at it. Maybe you'll find something. Loads of commits. It's been around for a while now. And okay, so we are going to use this, and the other name that I had written was JSPDF auto table. So it's a table plugin for PDF. So it allows us to have these nice tables on the PDF that is generated. There's one functionality missing right now in our table, in our React table, in our AG grid table, which is the sum of this total column. Okay, that should come somewhere here. We are going to skip over it for now. Like, I literally mean like for now. We are going to first focus on creating a PDF, and that summation thing, it is easy. Okay, it is really easy to add. Quick Google should get you there, but if not, we'll create an issue for it and would love to see some PR to resolve that. Okay, excuse me. So let me just remove myself from here, focus solely on the code, and let's get started. So JS PDF and JS PDF auto table. So to use JS PDF auto table, we need JS PDF. So I'm going to copy over this particular command from here, and I'm also going to paste it in chat quickly. So this is what you need to run to install both JS PDF and JS PDF auto table. Auto table gives us the table functionality, the tabular look in our PDF. Okay. So where's our code? Yep, here we are. Let's quickly go over to the shell. Okay, we go over to the shell, paste that, and hit enter, and wait for it to complete. Okay, that is done. So we have installed this JS PDF thingy. So the next step would be to create our PDF. So let's create a new file. Inside features, we will call it invoice pdf.jsx. Yes. And here we are going to create and download PDF file. We are going to use JS PDF from JS PDF, and we are also going to import. So we could use it like this. You can also use the plugin methods directly. So we are going to use this import JS PDF auto table. And this is JS, not JD. Okay, that should be good enough. I think this is all caps PDF. Yep. Okay, now const invoice PDF equals, it will take in two parameters. Okay, it will take the invoice info header data and invoice items table data. These are the two things that it's going to take in. And the next step is, inside this, we are going to create a function. We'll call it generate PDF function, which for now we can keep it empty. And finally, at the end of this generate PDF function, we will create a button, a very simple, quick button. So inside a div tag, let's create a button. Class name will be btn, and we can make it btn dash primary. I think that should be good. It will be called generate PDF button. Also, to center align it, because I know this will not be center aligned, we could do flex and justify center and items center. Yep. Now we'll go over to our invoice details page, and just above our temp card, we can call this. Okay. So generate PDF. No, it was invoice PDF. Let's invoice PDF start, invoice PDF end, and here we are going to call invoice PDF, close it. It takes exactly these two things. So that is what I'm going to give it, exactly these two things here. And what else? If I go over to invoice PDF, on click of this button, so on click, right? So on click, it should call generate PDF. Yep. And for the time being, inside this function, I'm just going to console log these two things. Okay. Let me just prettify it quickly. Yeah, much better. Invoice details page. Let me prettify that quickly. Okay. Now let's go over. Let me reload this. I have not imported it. Auto import is not working. So from here, so import this from dot slash this. Yep, that should be fine. Reload it. Wait for it to load. What did I miss now? So invoice PDF does not provide. Oh, I have not exported it. Export default invoice PDF. Hopefully now it will work. Yes, finally. Okay, so now if I do A, B, C, D, E, F, and I click on generate PDF, it adds this, does this console log. And we can see there is company address, company name, everything else is empty. If I do one to item name as, let's say, MLH, item description is GHW, and quantity is, let's say, 6, price is 7. And now just delete everything, click on generate PDF. So there is an array which has everything that we need except for the total is missing. Why is the total missing? Why is it not here? Item description, item name, price, quantity. Because it seems like our invoice items table, table data, it takes row item data. What is row item data? It is just a use state, and that takes in data on row data change, handle row data change. So handle row data change. What are we doing? Giving it everything. Row, new row, column definitions. You think is missing because there's no field? If I do this, and now if I try generate PDF, do you think it will be there? It's still missing. What is causing the issue? Another question. Why is it not showing the total column in the invoice table data? Anyone? It was also missing from this. Just to let you all know, just to remind you all, it was also missing from that. So what is Why is it easy? And what is different in all other, in all of the other things, which is not on the total column, not even on the serial number column? I'd love to know your inputs, folks. Uh, like, just think about it. What is missing and why is it missing? Like, what's causing that to be missed out? If you notice here, uh, cell value change. We are saying that whenever some value changes, all this params or data, which is okay. But why does this data not have the total data? What caused that to be non-existent? That is what we need to figure out. Okay, that's what we need to find out. That's what I would say is the third bug right now. We will resolve it if we get time at the end of it. I would tell you what is causing it, but actually it's kind of in front of you. Okay, I would say that much. That it's kind of in front of you, like something that is missing. And if you just go over and over it, just console log multiple things, you would eventually realize where is it going. Okay. Meanwhile, let's go to our generate PDF. Let's generate this PDF. Let's see how this generation works. I'm going to do const doc equals new JS PDF instance. So creating a new JS PDF instance. Uh, we could do multiple things. Let's start with the most basic. We want it to look nice. So we can go like, okay, set font uh, size. I'm going to say that doc dot set font size. Let's say that is 12. Okay. Next is add content to this PDF document, right? Add content to this PDF document. So how do we add content with it? So if you go over to their uh, documentation, you will see that you do this add and add text in there, text, and then you can save it by doing this. So they have like multiple. So you basically you need to do add text, dot text, dot text, dot text again and again and again. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to do dot text again and again. It's going to become a bit repetitive, a bit boring, but that is one way to do it. Other way would be very smartly to create something like a variable to hold some data. But at least for now, I'm going to do this. So doc.text, uh, this will be, let's say the title would be invoice. You could also define based on the documentation. Uh, they say this 10 comma 10. Okay, so you would kind of define the position of where this thing needs to be. So I am going to put that here. And then doc dot text, let's say company name colon, and I'm using backticks because I want to render a variable here. So you remember invoice info header data, and inside that we were managing state by keeping a track of company name. That's what we are going to do here. And on x-axis it would start from like position 10, and on the y-axis it would start from position 20. So 10 comma 10, like if so, think of this import JS PDF auto table as at 10 comma 10, and const invoice PDF is at, okay, yeah, this is 1020. Const generate PDF, if I take this one step here, it is 1030. Const doc is 1040. So you get the idea, like y-axis is changing and x-axis we are keeping it constant. Okay. Someone has a very nice suggestion. Can a function be created for a repetitive task? Yes, please. Please do that. Uh, I'll not do everything in this one. I'm just going to do bare minimum. So company name, doc.text, let's say. Now I also want invoice number. So below this invoice, actually, I could do, oh, maybe here. Uh, Let me do invoice number. And how are we keeping a track of invoice number? So in invoice info header data, if I try and find invoice info header data invoice number, yep, that gives me the invoice number. And I want to render this on 1030. Okay, that gives you an idea of how to render everything. And yeah, this is the way you would do it. So you are going to add, like you are going to basically add everything that was there in the state. Could you directly get the whole state and render it? The only problem would be this 10, 20, 30, like the positioning of lines. Okay, so by saying 10, 10, we are, as I said, starting from this particular position. 10, 20 means we are going on the next line. 1030 means next line. 1040 would be next line. 50, 60, 70, 80. Like that's how you would move, right? Uh, so we cannot directly take this invoice info header data and render it completely. You could maybe make a table out of it and render it. That is one way, and that's what we are going to do now. Also, let me just quickly run this through prettier because it became ugly. Yep, this is much better. Okay, so we have added some content in this whole thing, right? What's the next thing? Uh, Create a table for invoice items. That's what we are going to do. Const, let's say my columns is going to be, we'll have item name, we'll have item description, we'll have quantity, I guess. That's what we had, right? Yep. Next we would have price. And what do you all think? Will we get the total? Will we get the value of the total? It was not in our console. It is not in here. Will we be able to get the value of total on our PDF? For the time being, I'm just going to do a hack here, okay, to try and get it. But it's your kind of job to find again the bug and find why it's not there. So in create table, we are going to make it uh, define columns and define rows. So now in define rows, what are we going to do here is, as the name suggests, we'll do const rows equals to, we are getting invoice items table data from here. So invoice items table data dot map. And for each item in the table, I want to create an array. And I'm going to do like item dot item name, item dot item description, item dot quantity, item dot price. And the hack that I'm going to do, at least for the time being, till someone tries to figure out where are we missing this total and why is it going missing, I'm just going to do what I was doing there. I'm going to do item dot quantity multiplied by item dot price. Okay, this is what I'm going to do for now. Bad idea. Why? Because we are calculating it on the fly. We should have been able to get it from invoice items table data. Why are we not? I keep asking you to check it out. Okay, next is to actually create the table using JS table. JS auto table, was it? Yeah, JS PDF auto table. I'm going to copy this name here. So the way they say to do it is you do a doc.auto table. Okay. And in that doc.auto table, you could, I remember seeing somewhere, you could give them a column and you could give them rows and all those things. Yeah. So yeah, there's the row and the column. Okay, you could give them all those things. So that is what we are going to do. We're going to go like doc.auto table. It takes in the, not multiply, it takes in the columns, it takes the rows in, and then there is this custom object. Now inside this custom object, we could define multiple things. So what can we define? Where should it start from? So start on the y-axis. Where should it start from? We could say that it starts from, where did this end? It ends on the y-axis. It ends on, for us, it ends on 30. I'm going to say, when you add company address, company name, company address, customer name, customer address, invoice date, I think it should be 60 or 70. So I'm going to say start on the y-axis, start on 70. It has a theme property. Okay, so let me just show it to you. So there's a theme where is striped, grid, plain, and default is striped. I'm going to change that to, let's say, grid. Then you could define some styles on this. So styles, I'm going to say, keep the font size to be 10. Cell width, okay. Cell width, I'm going to tell it to wrap the text if it is too big. And I'm also going to say cell padding, like between cell, like inside the cell, add some padding to the text. So 2, I think that should be good enough. You could add some column styles as well. So column styles, we can go like over each column and we can define the width of each column. So how much should I keep it? I would say that for the zeroth column, uh, make sure the width of each cell in the zeroth column is, let's say, 30. Then for the first column, the cell width is, let's say, 40. For this, not width, it's width. For the second column, and now I'm going to copy paste it. This third 0, 1, 2, 3. How many columns do we have? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So not 4, 5, but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 30, 40, maybe let's say 20, 20, 40. Yep, that sounds good, I would say. Item description takes the maximum space. Item total could go with 30. Yep. Column styles. What about the whole table width? And what about the whole table height? What about some margin to it? All those things could be set. I would start with, let's say, margin. Okay. So for margin, I would say on the left, add 10, and on the right, add 10 as well. Okay, that has been loads of configuration, but we are coming to an end. Let me quickly format it on Prettier, please. And now finally, like after my line number 53, so I define margin and everything. And after that, how do we save? So if you remember, there is a doc.save, and you could provide the name of the PDF in a string. So I'm going to say doc.save. And for the file name, I am going to do something like invoice. Like you could give it anything you want. I'm going to do something tricky. I'm going to say take the invoice header data. Yeah, this one, invoice header data dot whatever is the invoice number that is provided by the user underscore uh, hmm, timestamp should be good, right? We could create a custom variable. Let's call it const timestamp equals to new date. So like every time I try to download it, it should not tell me, oh, this already exists, do you want to overwrite it or something. To ISO string. Yeah, this should be good. So timestamp. So I'm going to take this underscore dollar timestamp end, and we will end this name with a dot PDF, right? Dot PDF. And that, I think, should be all. That should allow us to actually save it. Yep. But I'm going to do one thing quickly. I am going to take this thing from stream, remove it from stream. Reason being, doc.save. What it does is it actually takes the takes it and saves it in your local machine. And I don't want to share everything, I don't know, that I have. So I'm just going to first click on it, make sure that it goes to a proper this. Uh, tu- 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 tu. Yep. Now I can add it back to stream, and okay, 3 minutes. I have to hurry up quickly. Company name. Let's say MLH. Company address ABC, customer name ABC, customer address ABC, invoice number 123, invoice date 2023, item name GHW, item description OSS quantity 1, price 5. We have a total here. I'm going to now click on generate PDF. 123 is my invoice number and there's a date.pdf. I click on save and it saved it, and I try and open it, and there we have the invoice. Okay, so item name, item description, quantity, price, total, everything is here. We have successfully generated a PDF. Add some more data here. There's a table, nice looking table, everything is here. Okay, so which basically brings us to the end of session. We had 3 bugs. Remember, if you don't remember, don't worry. I'm going to again put it on issues. We'll share the GitHub link maybe by end of day today or maybe tomorrow mostly. And that is all. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. Hope you enjoyed the session. You learned something new. This is too big. My face is big, too big, too big, too big. I think this layout is fine. Okay. Yes. I hope you all enjoyed this session. You enjoyed the whole walkthrough, and I hope to see you in maybe the upcoming GHWs. Any questions, anyone? I have like literally 1 minute. No worries. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everyone showing their love. Thank you so much. See you all. Bye-bye. Oh, socials. I'll ping it on Discord. Sorry. Thank you. Bye.